Here's our task. I pick books that I kind of like I'm trying to read for the season. I did this last winter and like I didn't really get to most of them, but it was good to kind of like have an outline for what I'm hoping the season might be. I was watching Nathan's like themed reading list for the fall, and the way he sort of characterized it I thought was like really interesting, because it wasn't just really set to like the season or like climate or like weather. It was a theme on like character and like an approach that he was trying to have towards the books that he was reading. I thought that was a really cool idea. I think the way that I tend to like my themes is it's also a general mood that fits like the season. So when I'm thinking of the books that I like to read in the summer, I am thinking of books that give me this impression of like heat, stickiness. It also kind of like allows it to expand into other things, but I have been thinking of the sort of mood that I'm in this fall, and maybe we'll pick these books and then, well, I have an idea of like what I want, but maybe when I like have them all gathered together, maybe then like something thematic might come from there. So again, this is an attempt, it's tentative. It doesn't mean that I'm actually going to get to like all of these books. That would be a miracle, but just knowing the sort of pacing of my life and current situation and my sort of like slowish reading habits, which I'm also trying to curb, and hopefully this will help. But yeah, we'll just kind of see like where this takes us. So first of all, I've been reading The Golden Notebook by Doris. This was supposed to be a summer read that I was going to do with Sophie, but it didn't end up happening. Summer reading was rough, and obviously I couldn't get to like this nearly 700 page novel. In my head I was like, oh, this would be a good like September book. It's October, I am barely like 100 pages in, so we move, it's fine. It is like a hefty book, and I was thinking it might be nice to pair it with something else. So I have been picking up Black Paper by Teju. Teju is someone who like I'm mostly familiar with him. I was familiar with his first novel, but like I haven't read it in full. I actually tried reading it like earlier this year. I thought it would be a good spring read, but it just didn't end up working out. But I've read an essay of his, I think it was called like Bad Laws, and he wrote this on, you know, the Palestine-Israel situation and the sort of colonial, you know, oppressive laws that have kept like Palestinian people from a lot of things. A really smart essay, very short. This is another book of his. I follow him on Instagram. He also does like photography. It's just something very painterly in the photos that he takes. This is an essay, the essay collection that came out 2021. He is sort of looking at art and like moving through these thoughts on art within the context of the, you know, sort of political, economic like stage that we're in societally. I'm still reading the first essay, but I have been finding myself picking this up a bit more because I thought like a non-fiction might be fun to pick up in tandem with The Golden Notebook. Okay, so now I need to pick out some of the other books I might score in my fall, and then I'll tell you why. I ended up actually making two piles, which is kind of funny to me. This top one is sort of stuff that I was thinking of for the fall. I'm actually moved some of them here because then I started making a winter pile, which is again ambitious because I'm a mood reader, my mood might change, but these were just some stuff I was like, might be interesting. Okay, so I'm going to start going through these and then we'll kind of just see what actually makes it. Let me bring this one up. This will end up being a reread. In my head, I would reread books a lot more than I actually do. I think sometimes the pressure of the fact that I'm doing this now, which is booktube and actually like publicly reading, it means sometimes that even when I want to reread things, I might not, because, or I might not like get to it because it feels like there's so much to read or there's so much that I should be reading. I also have like a lot of books on my shelf that I have acquired and just not read. But I kind of want to like return to this. I read this like last fall around this time, it was September I read this because I also read Lost Star at this time. I remember really liking this. There's something about Stephanie LaCava's like preoccupations that, I don't know, really sit with me. I feel like I constantly want to like be in that world, thinking of the, you know, culture industries in the way she is. But beyond that, I think how women, so I'm thinking of the Superrationals and the other novel of hers, which I actually love more than this, I Fear My Pain Interests You. But like these sorts of ingenue, like white girls who, like these privileged white girls who come from these like privileged families, and they're, I don't know, just questions about like agency and about abuse and permissiveness and passivity. So like passivity, agency, but also how like that plays within not just these industries, but like these young 20-something-year-old like privileged white girls who are in a sense almost like trying to make almost like they're trying to like make art or like make a life that's worthy of something through their pain. There's something about this that gives me like fall reads that has me thinking I might want to pick this up. Another thing kind of in this vein that I was thinking of, okay, I bought this sometime last year and I think I was moved by the cover, and I might have thought this was a different book. So I've seen Jaren and Kat talk about this. I remember Jaren talking about how she liked some of it, but then she felt like it didn't handle certain aspects very well. I've also seen Kat like rave about this book and talk about how it was a good sort of form of representation for her that she'd never like seen in a text, mainly in the form of like reading about an Afro-Latina. I don't really know too much about this novel. I think I was just like in love with the cover, sort of moved in that sense. And similarly to the Superrationals, I think this might be another take on, I could be wrong by the way, but I think this could be another take on like the, you know, flailing sort of 20-something-year-old woman. And if I'm reading them together, that might be useful to think about those ideas together. And then I guess in a more like traditional sense of the sort of fall reading list, I thought about these two and now I'm not sure anymore. I was thinking of the sort of back to school, okay, I'm actually wearing like a pleated skirt, but I was thinking of the sort of like back to school read, and I thought about these two novels. Me and The Idiot have a long history. I bought this book like back in 2019, picked it up like multiple times and just like, I don't know what was happening, but I would start it and like make my way through and then just kind of stop. Like I kept starting and stopping. Like I don't think any book I've owned, this might be not untrue, but like there's a couple books I've owned where I've done this, and The Idiot is one of them. And I don't know why, because so many people rave about this. I think the last iteration of my reading, because I do have a bookmark here, and yeah, this is the most I needed too. I've heard a lot of really good things about Either Or that I want to get to, but there's a lot of good stuff about like language and coming of age, and it's also like a humorous novel. I've been really thinking that this might be the time to like pick this one up again. Also, I recently graduated like last December. Grad school is always on my mind. This might be a good way to like get back into school, right? I've also been thinking about Giovanni's Room. I don't know much about this one except that everybody talks about it as one of his really great novels. I think this is another like school one. I might be wrong, but I think this is another like set in college book. Speaking of Baldwin, Another Country is another book that I started and just never finished. That's a lot of the books in my library, by the way. I basically made it like almost to the end and then just didn't finish it, but I loved it. And I was reading this in like 2018 when I was like still in college. I think I was reading this in like January. What I remember from this book is it's set in New York for the most part, and I remember the opening scene. There's jazz, it's nighttime. I don't know if there's like a rain puddle, and there's this guy who's like just kind of flailing through the city. I'm unsure if this might make it to the winter reading list or if it will stay in the fall one. Actually, I might move it down there because I don't really feel the urge to pick it up just yet. It's not one of his more popular like novels. I think there's a review that I saw where it's like it's not one of his like best novels. I remember like loving the sort of messiness and the imperfection and the almost like, I don't know, something in the politics too that felt very uneven and jagged, that I was like, okay, hold on, you know, like even Baldwin could have found himself preoccupied with maybe what he shouldn't have been. Moving into the winter books. This has also been something that I've been thinking of that might be a fluke, but we'll see. To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I don't know if it's just this cover that gives me like spooky vibes. Like I'm not a big Halloween girl. I'm not a big like scary movie girl. Like I don't get the October FOMO for like spooky season, and when I'm compiling my list I'm not necessarily thinking of that. But I saw this cover and I was like, okay, hold on, like maybe this is a Virginia Woolf version of a horror novel. I really doubt it. But what I know with like Virginia Woolf from the little I've read is that there will be mesmerizing lyrical writing, and she's always like a thoughtful one to read. I'm also willing to go into this without knowing anything, like, yeah. I don't know, maybe fall, maybe not like early, maybe more of a like November book, I don't know, we'll see. I'm actually not going to, I'm going to put this one away. So I was thinking of Depraved Indifference by Gary Indiana, because I have like a track of like, I read his novel last year, and the first time I read his novel was 2021, but I haven't read any Gary Indiana this year, besides an early attempt in January to reread Horse Crazy. I think it was just too soon. This is Depraved Indifference, and the big draw for me with this was the cover, obviously, because I'm a big cover girl. I love this cover. I raved about it in like the video, my book haul video where I bought this. I was thinking, I might not put it back, I don't know. I was thinking of this because this novel is like the final installment in his crime series, like his crime trilogy. It's a mother and son like criminal duo, and it's just kind of like following them. And I already know it's going to have like Gary Indiana's like wit and his acerbic like humor and everything. I don't know why, for some reason it's giving me summer. It's giving me like the sort of like novel that I might have wanted to read in the summer. The cover isn't, but like the idea of the novel, because I kind of like the summer for illicitness, you know? I'm going to keep it as a tentative one. This one is very fresh. Constructing a Nervous System by Margo Jefferson. This one came about because I just walked up here and I saw it and I was like, okay, hold on. I read Negro Land earlier this year, fell in love with Margo Jefferson as like a writer, a critic, a thinker. Like, she's brilliant. And this is her second memoir that came out very recently too. I don't know if it was last year or 2021. I know jazz is like a big thing in here, as it tends to be in her memoirs. It's also going to be more focused, I believe, on like her dance career. I don't know if it necessarily gives me fall vibes, but like it would be a pick-me-up for when it gets gloomier and darker. Gorgeous cover, like Margo Jefferson's brain is always something that I'm very ready to inhabit. And then the other thing I was thinking of was Playing in the Dark by Toni Morrison. The Golden Notebook has piqued my interest in wanting to like bring this up. I've only ever read this in like a class setting. I think that might be part of what is keeping me from like picking it up in the way that I would like to, because it is literary criticism. I think also I don't like the layout. Someone explained to me why, who did this? Oh, it's Vintage. Classic. Vintage International hates Toni Morrison. Make this make sense. Why is everything moved all the way up? Like the layout is just all to the top, and then there's this like extra space at the bottom that we don't need. It's very ugly. Like if anything, the page number should have been at the bottom if we're going to have all that space. My belief. Okay, and because this is like a fall/winter situation, I'm going to show you some of the things I was thinking of to pick up this winter as well. This one is a given. Indivisible. I was reading this last December and I just didn't finish it, so I got up to here per usual. I think the thing with Indivisible for me was that I just finished college, and there was this certain mood where like it fit. Like I literally remember like how I was reading, like what my room looked like, all of that. That just didn't carry over to the rest of the year and then to January. But I want to revisit it. Like it's a very stark, cold novel. It's my first Fanny Howe. It has her like poeticism and her preoccupation with like philosophy and ethics, and I don't know, there's a way her writing also kind of reminds me of like a Simone Weil sort of religious like austerity without being strictly like Christian. Another thing I was thinking of is the water statues by Fleur Jaeggy. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I grabbed this from my bookshelf the other day and it's been in my bag along with black paper and the golden notebook. And then recently in bed I read the first paragraph and immediately I was like, I love this, like I love her so much. Like there's just something about her writing that like just I don't even know how to describe it, but there's something about her writing that immediately washes over me. There's something about her writing that also like makes me want to do something grand, like set it up, like make the mood and like the atmosphere fit. Also because it's a bit more of an experimental style. I know I can read this quickly. I felt like I would need the coldness of winter to fit the vibe. I don't know. This is a romantic thing, right? Like, because it's like mood reading, but then it's also like, oh, like I can't read this book yet because like the weather does not match the vibe. Also, like, this will be such a good pairing, Indivisible and the water statues. Not necessarily because like they write similarly. I don't think Fanny, Howe and Fleur write in the same way. These two, from what I can tell, at least her writing, like, and then this novel from what I've read, they're both cold, and I think that iciness will fit with the vibe. Here is being ambitious. I've owned this since 2018. I bought The Wings of the Dove by Henry James. I actually bought this as like my first Henry James novel instead of, I believe, Portrait of a Lady, because Sarah Nicole Prickett, who I love and I bring up a lot, she had mentioned this being her favorite Henry James novel, and I was like, okay, I love her taste. It is almost 500 pages. I love a good like 19th century novel. I'm going to find a tweet for you actually. The best novels are novels where like the first line is them just like, oh, so-and-so was walking to this place and was taking in the scenery, you know, like those like 19th century like novels where they're always like walking to people's houses. I don't really know how Henry James writes, but I'm very curious to read this. I was also thinking I might get back to jazz again with like another country and like other books that I'd started and stopped. Like, excuse the horrible bookmark, but this is where I was in jazz, so I had like this left to read. I don't know, 2018 was a time. I remember loving jazz. I think it would be a good like winter blues read. Also, again with the pairing, but I guess the jazz elements in both of these novels kind of sit together. The final thing that I was thinking of will be ambitious, we'll see, but again, fitting in with my sort of, in my brain, there's a way themes like are exciting. So I was thinking of Waiting for God by Simone, which I got earlier this year. It's a compilation of like essays she's written, letters she's written. I really enjoy Simone as like a personality. I've also read her writing, like this part of Gravity and Grace on attention being like a prayer, like will stick with me forever. I also think it fits in with like, not necessarily Christmas, but like this sort of wintry, like cold questions about God that like Indivisible is also having, and about like religion and ethics and how a person should live. Something about the end of year reflection lends itself to those kinds of questions. A little philosophy in winter will be fun. This is my tentative fall and winter reads. I'm actually really excited for this. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you've read these or which ones that you're most like interested in. Yeah.